Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. This is an appropriately named video, unlike some of mine. What's wrong with my Dracula orchid roots? Like I've always said, if you've got a plant that's not right, the problem you can almost guarantee, if you know your environment's not far off, which mine isn't, then it's going to be what's in the pot. Now this is Dracula Bella. I'm almost inclined to say was. It's gone that far. It hasn't gone suddenly, but it has gone. And we're looking at some really sorry leaves. Now some could be older ones, and it's a natural progression. There is a new one here, but then some of these over here are new ones and they're not happy. And then also not full size. So, like I've always said, when there's something wrong, get it out of the pot. And my worry, I will let you know in a minute once I've had a look. Bearing in mind it's in an open basket. Right, first point of order, a third of the pot has no roots in. Could we be getting somewhere near the problem? Right, now I do see either some spikes or some live roots. So the plant's not lost. Not yet. Not yet. Give me a chance and then we'll lose it. Now, I'm reluctant to take all of this off, but I'm thinking here that perhaps I really ought to. My problem is, I have a friend at the Bournemouth Orchid Society. I know how he grows, I know where he grows, and to a degree I know what he grows. And he wouldn't have too many of these around. But the last time I had a chat with him we were talking about media for an entirely different genus, nothing to do with Draculas. And he said, oh, you want to go careful. After a year that stuff starts to go down quite quickly. Well, that's actually, I believe, a flower spike. Right, there's some of this is going to have to stay because it's too well attached and there's too few roots to, to break it off. It's not a solid mass, quite honestly here, but it's more like a solid mass of old roots, which are going to have to stay there or I'll have nothing to grab hold of. Right, now the discussion. The discussion is that some people think this is the best thing since sliced bread. My first question now is, are you in this country? And if the answer is no, then there's a very, very good chance that the stuff you've got and that you're using is not the same as what we get and what we're using. Because it may well come from a different source, which is going to be in the Far East, I suspect, although not necessarily. This is coconut husk in various sizes. And my friend said, watch that stuff because it works absolutely brilliantly and you'll get the impression it's the best media you've ever had for things that need to stay damp. Things that need to hold moisture in their pot. It's perfect, it's brilliant. It's got air in it, yeah, it's got fibrousness, it's got lumps for things to grab hold of, but there's your problem. After a while, it's going to break down. It's organic. And he said the stuff that we get in this country mainly comes over here for pet use, to put in the bottom of their trays, and it's hijacked for orchids in a lot of cases, not all cases. And he said after about a year, maybe 15 months, you might even be lucky and be 18 months depending on how wet it stays, it will start to break down. And in his experience, once it starts, it goes quite quickly and turns incredibly acidic because it's holding the moisture. Too much. whereas at first it was good stuff. So I'm going to use this plant as my experiment and my benchmark. This plant was potted in November. Hang on, if that's all right, I've just had a mental thought. If it was November 1920, then it should be due a repot. If it was November 21, then it flipping well shouldn't, should it? November 21 to May 22, shouldn't even need to think about repotting. But this plant is not happy. It's not happy as it is. And if it's not happy as it is, it needs a change. We'll have to go very, very careful because that is a flower spike if it hasn't already lost its tip. And there are a couple of growing tips on roots. So it's not a total loss as a root system. They like air around them, so I'm not going to put it in a pot. I am going to put it back in that thing. But I'm not going to put it back in with any coconut husk at all. Right, so what are we going to do this time then? Well, we're going to go to our next best thing since sliced bread, which is what this stuff was once upon a time. If it is proven that this picks up dramatically, and it was that was going off, then I'll be looking at an awful lot of other things that I've got potted up, because I've also got some other things in fragile roots in that stuff. And initially they grew well. Are they still growing well? Let me just switch off a minute. I'm just going to go and check my notes and work out when that was done. Right, let's just confirm that. That plant went in that stuff in November 2020. So it's been in there 18 months-ish. And my friend said, depending on how wet things stay, you're looking at 12 to 18 months and this stuff will go. So maybe we have hit that point and it's starting to deteriorate the plant, because you know there's too many yellow leaves on here. There's a lot of spotting. Some Draculas masdevallias do get that spotting. It's like an oncidium thing. It is an infection in actual fact. The chances are a dose of a systemic fungicide would probably get rid of it on new stuff. You can't get rid of it once it's there, it won't disappear. But what you can do is stop it on any new leaves and stop it progressing. That's the whole idea. Right, so what are we going to do then? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to get some of this stuff, which is collected live moss, assorted. There's quite a few different types in there. I'm just going to move along a bit. It's still on camera, yes. So we've got some live moss. And now what I'm going to go and get, I'll turn the camera off again, sorry about this. It's well planned, isn't it? Not. It was a spur of the moment job. I just finished watering all my pots and was about to move on to the mounts, and that caught my eye. And I thought, we'll stop, take a break from watering and have a go at this. So I need to go and get another ingredient. Okay, so what we have in here is Burnham's medium bark, which, like I've always said, is small compared with other brands. It is quite a fine mix. There are some larger pieces in it and there are some very small pieces in it. It is a mix. But we need to block these holes up if we're going to use that pot again. And this is my theory now. I'm going to use moss to line the pot. That will also hold in moisture. So that's what I'm using this for. It's live moss and it's assorted. I want to see which bits do the best. We've got some stringy moss and some tight moss, as I call it. The tight moss comes from on top of sawn off trees and things like that. It comes off of actual trunks of trees. Sometimes it comes off of the ground. But it's like a carpet moss, that stuff, and it's quite compact. Now the beauty of lining this with moss is, of course, it's not going to block the flower spikes in any shape or form. What do Draculas grow in naturally in the wild? Moss. And some of them, they've been seen and filmed, visual evidence, not just words written in a book 50 years ago. They actually are not growing on branches. In the cloud forests, the branches are like dripping and the moss grows down and hangs, and often the Draculas are growing in that moss and not anywhere near the branch. They're just like hanging in the air amongst the moss that's attached to the branch, and the water runs down through. So they're getting almost a constant flush of what? Clean water. There's not a lot of nutrients in it. Right, and then the next thing I'm going to do is put the bark in the middle. I'm not going to mix the bark with any moss. And I've put quite a bit in because this plant is quite big, and it's as big as the top of the pot. Now, I'm probably going to lose that spike, but so be it. You'll have to grow another one. And then all I'm going to do is gently push this onto the top of what's already there, and I'm going to top fill it with bark, not moss. Why am I doing that? To tell you the truth, I don't know, because I feel like it. I am no Dracula or Masdevallia expert by any means, but some of mine are growing pretty good. And quite honestly, the ones that are growing pretty good are in bark. So the only reason this moss is in this pot is to stop the bark falling out the holes and to keep it moist. So that's all it's going to get. If I haven't crushed those, flower spikes, I'll get there in a minute, come on brain, more coffee. If I haven't crushed those, then they should grow on. They might have a kink in them in the pot, but that's irrelevant. Now this actually hangs, this pot. It doesn't have to, but if the flower spikes are going to be able to push down through the pot and hang downwards, then really it does have to hang, doesn't it? Otherwise it's just not going to work. Oh, come on, let go. Hate these hooks. Gotcha. Sorry, it managed to open over a leaf. Nuisance. Right. So there we go, nice and evenly spaced. Now what I'm going to do is go and drown that. In fact, I've got plain RO water in the bowl there, so we'll drown it now. As I said, I have just finished watering. Now I've got some more bark in there that I got at the Wessex show, and it's quite honestly, it's not far off all there flipping is nowadays, and it's filthy. Now if I'd used that bark, which is it's quite a bit larger, not ideal for this sort of thing, basically if I'd used that, what I'd have done is I'd have gone and set the mixer tap up in the kitchen with not freezing cold water straight out the cold tap, just a little bit of warm in there to take the chill off of it, and I'd have absolutely drowned it under the tap in the kitchen, washing all the dirt down the sink. Then I'd have come back and given it a good soak with RO water to wash the tap water out. Fiddly? Well, that's how it is. Right, so this is how it's going to be. And I know I've got definitely one new growth. I think there were two. I'm going to watch those like a hawk and see what happens, see what we get now. And obviously there's root disturbance. Those two new growths might not be a good example of what I'm going to get in the future. But what I don't want in the future is smaller and smaller leaves that are more and more discoloured and disappearing like this. So we'll see what happens with it, and we'll take it from there. And if this seems to pick up, if this perks up, got the long days, doesn't necessarily need bright light, but it does need the day lengths. It's got those now, and what it's got going for it this year that it's never had is it's got no heat. So it's in a temperature that far better suits it than it's ever had before. It's got the right light, it's got a much better temperature for the type of plant it is, Now it's got some new media. Now it needs to grow, doesn't it? We shall wait and see. Updates will follow. If I can find it, I don't know, if I can find it, that's an if, you'll get an end screen now which shows me potting this up in this stuff, however long ago that was. That's if I filmed it, and also if I can find it. Finding older videos from around now forward in the life of my channel should become a lot easier because of what I said in my Sunday chat. We're going to start naming our videos far, far more sensible so that people who are coming in cold, who've never seen the channel before, who are searching on YouTube for something, find me. Yeah? Now, if that had said kitchen time, sorting out problem media, who the hell would have found it? This is what I'm getting at, fine-tuning the channel. So hopefully the title this time is a bit more relevant. Didn't take a lot of thinking really. Anyway, thanks for dropping by. See you next time. Bye for now.